All right, you welcome back to Clever Minds. We're still on quadratics, and in this section, we'll be looking at um, method of completing the square. That is, solve a quadratic equation by method of completing the square. So let's see this quadratic equation. This is the form in which many quadratic equations exist, right? Good. So let's take a look at this, and we are solving by method of completing the square, and we are going to derive a general formula for solving quadratic equation by method of completing the square. So the first step is to divide through by what? A. That is, divide through the equation by A. That is, we have x squared plus bx over A plus c over A equals 0. Now the first step. So now the second step is to take the constant term, which is c over A, to the other side of the equation, right? Good. So we have x squared plus b over a x equals negative c over a. Now, the next step after this is to divide the coefficient of x by 2 in this what equation, right? Good. The coefficient of x is b over a. I don't mean x squared, I mean x. The coefficient of x is b over a. So I'm dividing it by 2. That is, I have the coefficient of x. So when we have the coefficient of x, what do we have? We have b over 2a. How do we arrive at b over a times 1 over 2 gives us b over 2a. So what do I do to this? I square it and add to both sides of this equation. The left hand side of this equation is x squared plus b over ax, while the right hand side is minus c over a. So squaring this, that'll give us b squared over 4a squared. Then I add to both sides of the equation. So I come here, this particular one, this one will be added to the left hand side of the equation, while this will be added to the right hand side of the equation, right? It's still the same thing. So the idea is to make the left hand side of the equation a perfect square. So we have x squared plus b over a x plus b over 2a all squared, then equals what? Negative c over a plus b squared over 4a squared. Yes, that's good. So now we have added it to both sides of the equation. Let's play this. So that's one of the steps in solving quadratic equation. We are not done by method of completing the square. So this now has been made a perfect square, so it can be compressed to this: x plus b over 2a all squared, right? Good. Equals 4a squared, right? Negative 4ac plus what? B squared. Yes. So if you look at the left hand side of this equation now, you see that by the time you expand this, x plus b over a all squared, you get back this previous step, the left hand side. Yes, that shows that you're on track. Good. So the next thing for us to do is to make x plus b over 2a the subject by squaring, taking the square root of both sides. Yes, to eliminate or to remove the square. So we take the square root of both sides. We have x plus b over 2a, right, equals, whenever you are taking the square root of the one on the right hand side, because you are taking the square root, it must include plus or minus. Yes, the square root of negative 4ac plus b squared over what? 4a squared. Are you there now? Good. So now we have this x plus b over 2a equals plus or minus. Now, if you look at this is negative 4ac plus b squared. So it can be written as this: the square root of b squared minus 4ac, so that you bring the positive term to the front, you bring it forward. Then this, the denominator 4a squared, is a perfect square. So you can easily find the square root of a perfect square, which is what? 2a. So that gives you all over 2a. Do you understand? Good. So now, next thing for us is to bring x, make x the subject by saying x equals, bring b over 2a to the other side of the equation, that is the right hand side. Then that gives us negative b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over what? 2a. Right? Good. Let's come up. So we can conclude by compressing that what? The formula for finding x, or the variable in any quadratic equation, is given as x equals, we're almost done deriving the quadratic the formula method. X equals minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. How was that achieved? Is by taking the LCM of this. Just simple. The lowest common multiple, or the least common multiple of the denominator, and we arrived at what? This. So one important thing we have to note is that, right, the whole of this coming, so I can write this as x equals minus b plus or minus square root of d. The d, I'm going to tell you what it is. It is called the discriminant. Yes, over 2a. Yes. So the d discriminant, d is equal to what? B squared minus 4ac. Yes. So that discriminant is very, very important in showing if our equation has real roots, um, real and equal roots, real and distinct roots, then also complex roots. So this discriminant determines that, determines the real roots, the real, it can be real and equal, it can be real and equal, it can be real and distinct, that is different, then it can be complex. So this is what the discriminant functions for either of these three things. When we say real, we mean set of real numbers. When we say complex, we mean set of complex numbers. Real numbers as this, and complex numbers as this. Right? Good. So here is our discriminant. So we can easily come here and say that what? We can easily come here and say that since we have two solutions for any quadratic equation, right? Good. So we can say that our alpha equals minus b plus the square root of the discriminant over what? 2a. While our what? Beta equals minus b minus the square root of the discriminant over what? 2a. So these are the solutions to any quadratic equation. So we have written it in terms of alpha and what? Beta. So that's what this is all about. So let's stop here in this section. In the next section, we are going to see how to find the sum and the product of roots using this notion, alpha and beta. Right? Good. So this is how to derive the quadratic equation formula, which is this. Quadratic equation formula is this. Use the quadratic equation formula, which some people always call the almighty formula, but the thing is, there's no formula that is almighty, right? Good. So it's just the quadratic equation formula. Quadratic equation formula, right? Good. So we have come to the end of this section. Thank you for your time. This class is brought to you by Clever Minds, and you have a great day.